up, y'all? This is Nina Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. I'm so glad you are hanging out with us today. You could have been anywhere else, but you decided to hang with us. So I am so excited. I have someone here for you. As you know, I go around this amazing little planet of ours trying to find the best humans on it to come on here, grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. I found Adalina East, and she is an international lecturer, a mental health and leadership expert, and a multidimensional mentor working with a global clientele to recover from trauma. I freaking love that. So, as I was reading it, she said she served thousands of people in 8 countries to overcome trauma. But the best part is that she leads others to do the same. I love that so much, Adelina, because I feel like, what we've been through in life is never really for us, but for the people that we can impact. So I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to
Thank
Straight
you.
Talk. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Thanks so much for having me here, Nina.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. So I love taking our audience just to natural conversation
Yeah.
and learning about my guests, because I feel like when you're doing really powerful and impacting work, people should know about it so that they can work with you and network with you and all that great stuff. So we're going to start off with that little question I ask everyone is, who are you? So who are you, Adelina? Let's do it.
I am a person of compassion. I am a person who believes in being free. And I am a person who believes that we can all heal ourselves through
Mm.
various different practices.
Oh, that's really powerful. So we're going to have to dive into all of that. So, so talk to me about how this, how this came about. How did you learn that you were someone who had compassion or someone who wanted to, impact other people's lives through trauma? Is trauma something that played a part in your life? Just tell
Yes,
me a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
very much so, of course. So I was born and raised, well, actually not born, but raised in upstate New York. And my mom was a symphony musician, and my dad was an opera singer.
Wow.
And so a lot of their existence was pretty traumatizing, not only for them, but also for everyone connected, because it's hard to be raised by artists in certain
Hmm.
circumstances. We often didn't have much money. We were really hand to mouth for most of my childhood. And I think that really deeply impacted my sister and I. We were always taught the value of helping someone else.
Hmm.
And so we both ended up going into what are called helping professions. She's a lawyer and helps people who are leaving abusive relationships. And I went to go work for the UN and for various NGOs to also work with survivors of domestic violence.
Wow.
As
That's
we were
amazing.
growing up, we experienced some of that, and we also experienced what it was like to really be on the outskirts in certain ways. And
That's
so we both think
powerful.
it's important to give back in that way.
That's really, really powerful. I work with a nonprofit organization who does a lot of work in domestic violence.
Oh, good.
And so I am a survivor of domestic violence myself. So I really admire that. So going through that trauma, because I know you're into mental health and all of that stuff, but what were, what was that moment for you? Like when you said, that moment of going through trauma to actually wanting to take action. What was that? What was that caused that for you?
So for me, it was actually even more personal than what I was just telling you about. I went through a long period of chronic pain and
Mm,
extreme illness. My illness got to the point that I couldn't move my legs or my
mm.
feet, and we couldn't figure out what it was. I saw 27 doctors, and no one could figure out what it was. And I
Wow.
finally found over time and through working with my Native American grandmother that it was sort of a rite of passage of what was happening in my life, but it was also a warning sign of, hey, wake up, you need to deal with your own trauma. You're always working with everyone else's trauma as a
Mhm.
therapist. Now it's time for you to deal with your own.
Mm.
And so I created my healing modality, which is now trademarked, called Transformational Healing, because it encompasses the mind, body, and spirit. And it honestly was what finally pulled me out of that trauma state. I don't in any way say that other people who are unable to move their legs are in trauma state. For some, it's actually a medical issue. For me, it was as well, but it was also trauma induced.
Wow.
And so through using transformational healing, I was able to start dealing with my own trauma. It was the moment of wake up, which I
Mm.
think is so important for all of us.
What made you go through that route though, right? Why not? I mean, I know you saw a lot of medical doctors,
Mhm.
but the mental health part of it, were you in therapy? Were you going through therapy? Because it's funny, isn't it? We do that, don't we? Like people who are, uh, uh, have trauma in their life. Maybe not all of us. I shouldn't say all of us, but I know for me as well. Like I am really quick to help others pull out
Right.
of their stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And pull out their giftings and pull out things from them while I'm still not dealing or suppressing my trauma.
Right.
That's really interesting, right? So
Yes.
what kind of made that light bulb moment go off for you? Were you besides the mental I'm sorry, the physical illness, was there something that was happening in your life, like a perfect storm or something happening that made you look at this
Yeah.
situation? Or yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the perfect storm was I actually had a really beautiful marriage at the time, so that wasn't the issue. But the issue was that I had been working overseas for so many years for the UN and really loved it. And when I had been told that I needed to move back to New York for a few years, that's usually the way it goes. You know, you work overseas for a while and then you go back and teach other people what you've learned
Mhm.
at UN headquarters, and do a different job there. I found that I'm really not an office person. I'm
Mhm.
not great at the standard working hours. I have a hard time being in routine.
Mm.
And I think a lot of us do, and we just suck it up and try really hard to get through.
Yeah.
And I did that for, almost 40 years. But what I found is that if I were able to work at my own pace and able to sort of be my own boss and do the things that were important to me, I was 20,000 times more effective.
Hmm.
And so I think a part of my journey was also coming to the self acceptance that it's okay if you don't fit into the norm of what you're supposed to be doing at a certain age, at a certain time,
Right.
with a certain educational background. That was the job I had spent my entire life working for. It
Right.
just wasn't what ultimately was the most important thing to me.
So was that scary for you finding that out? Like kind
Oh,
of like discovering that? Cuz right, cuz we
terrifying.
right, cuz a lot of, it's interesting. I always ask, who are you? And it's amazing to me the different answers. Like some people lead immediately with what they do, with what their
Mhm,
business is, right? And some people like you, which I think are truly connected to who they are, start with I'm a compassionate person, I'm loving, I'm kind. But a lot of people are like, "Oh, I am," and then they go in directly into what they do. So, what was that? That must have been so scary to say, I don't want to do
oh,
this anymore. I'm going to go ahead and do something completely different, even though this has been my bread and butter. This has been what
mhm.
I know. This is what I do. What was that moment? How was that?
That was terrifying, and I have to also acknowledge privilege here because I had the privilege of being married to someone who could not so much financially take care of me, but we would be okay. Like, we would
Okay.
still have a roof over our heads. We needed my income as well, but we would still have a place to live and be able
Right.
to take the
Right.
subway.
Right.
Um, I'm a New Yorker at heart.
Right.
And so, that's the first point, is the point of privilege. So as I was coming to this conclusion, the terror for me is that, you work so hard to achieve a certain level in your career and you're told
Mhm.
all of the different things your whole life of what you have to do to get there.
Right.
And so you kill yourself to overachieve and you miss out on people's birthdays, baby showers,
Mhm.
weddings, all the major moments in life that people on their deathbed talk about being the most important so that you can achieve this goal. And then when you get there, realizing it's not enough.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so what I took away from that was that thankfully I had degrees in a number of different things and I had already been acting as a therapist.
Mhm.
And so I was able to start my own psychotherapeutic practice, which is what I've done. And I work with clients one on one. I also work with groups sometimes. And I really enjoy it. And it's so meaningful to me because the part of the job that I loved when I was working overseas was the one-on-one contact, the seeing the person through their different life changes and seeing
Right.
how much they could grow. It's a little bit like being a parent in that way. You watch someone grow and change and become the person that they're meant to be. And it's such a
Mhm.
beautiful and important thing that I wasn't willing to give it up to sit in an
Right.
office and push paper.
Right.
And so I started my own therapeutic practice, and it took on so many forms. First, I was an herbalist because that's what I was into at the time. And I had just
I
finished
love it.
a year of um, herbal medicine. And I still love it. And I still use it with my clients when they really want to work with me in that way. But my favorite thing is the therapeutic part. Like, what do
Mhm.
you have happening? I won't work using traditional talk therapy anymore because I did for 15 years and I saw how slow it was. I'm just not willing anymore. So I work with people who are willing to sort of think outside the box, see outside the box, and see that this other healing modality is actually such a quicker way to process trauma.
Mm.
Everything from car accidents to divorces, childhood trauma, those kinds of things.
Wow.
Everything just works much more quickly with this healing modality.
Yeah, so let's get into that. I do want to know what this healing modality is, right? I thought it would be a lot of the talking, right? The talking it through. But now that you mentioned that, I really am I'm peeking up here a little bit. I'm a little bit more curious about what that means because, it's beautiful, isn't it, when we go through the transformation in our own lives, the way we see. I like the way you talk and the way you said that wasn't for me, so then I shifted. You know
Right.
what I mean? I like that. I wish that more people would do that. I wish that most of us would do that. Pay attention to
Mhm.
ourselves, pay attention to what's going on in here and then shift accordingly. A lot of times we just plummet through, we just keep doing it. A lot
Right.
of people, Adelina, would have just stayed at the job in the cubicle, miserable as hell. I mean, that's
Mhm.
just facts,
Right.
right? Another thing I love about you and about what you're doing is that you worked overseas. You got different women's perspectives,
Mhm.
different culture, the way people thought differently. That's all so vitally important when you're working with a human,
Yes.
to know all of that. So tell me about your modality, the modality that you've trademarked and you've created. Tell me about that.
Well, I created it based on a lot of what you just said. So, what I found was that over time, I was working with people of many different religious backgrounds:
Mhm.
Muslim women, Christian women, Catholic women, Buddhist women, you name it. And we all see the world so differently
Mhm.
and we take in information so differently. And I believe, just like our IQ test, that the American psychotherapeutic process is really geared towards people who've grown up in America,
Mhm.
who were, taught certain things in school, and it doesn't really take into account cultural differences at all.
Right.
And I won't work that way just because I have worked with people from so many different places. I think that's only respectful, at
Yeah.
bare minimum, respectful.
Right.
And so what I created is something really founded on neuroscience. And one of the things that I loved the most about working overseas was that I got to research things neuroscientifically for different cultures and see how things worked in different places, as well as the
Mhm.
therapeutic portion. And so I've created this modality whereby we literally retrain your brain out of an old memory and an old expectation that you had. So I'll give you an example. We have lots of different modalities now to do things. I also practice EMDR. I think
Love
EMDR is
that.
great,
Yeah, I do too.
but EMDR really only works for like one specific thing at a time. So you could be
Mhm.
in EMDR for like 5 years to get
Mhm.
through everything.
Mhm.
I don't have patience for that. So,
Right. I'm starting to get the gist of that, Adelina.
yeah, no, nope, sorry.
You're like, I don't have time. Every time you switched, every time you switched gears, I don't have time. I don't have time
Yeah,
for that.
exactly. That's
So
exactly
funny.
it. And neither do you. Neither does the
Right.
client.
No,
You don't have
I
time
know.
for
I
that
say it all
either.
the time. That's why I'm laughing because I'm like, oh my God, that's my girl. That's exactly how I am. Must be this East Coast thing going on. I'm not sure.
It is. My mom came to visit this summer and she said, "Yeah, you are always in a hurry. You've
Yeah.
always been like that."
So funny.
So, I mean, I work with people from the East Coast too, and they're also always in a hurry.
Right.
So,
Right.
the beautiful thing about transformational healing is that we can do it in a hurry. So, you start with for example, you start with one thing that traumatized you and you try to remember the earliest experience of this. So for a lot
Mhm,
of people,
mhm,
this is like having a parent who is hard on you about your weight, or
mhm.
like, oh, are you sure you want to eat that? Don't you want to lose some weight before that next thing for school or whatever it is, you know? And so people can kind of trace that to as early in life as they have it. And what I've found is when we're doing the neuroscience practice, which I will not share because it is trademarked, but I'm so happy to work with people who are into it, we actually create a whole new memory of
Yeah.
that first time where their parent made them feel shame about their
Mhm,
weight.
mhm.
And so, as we're creating this new memory, we bring in all of the senses. What do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? What do you taste? What does your body feel around you? Like, are you touching the couch? What does the couch feel like? And as we work in all of those different senses,
Mhm,
your entire brain perks up and is ready to accept the new information, create the new memory, and working through the limbic brain, the part of your brain that connects emotion and memory, you start to create all new feelings and memories about this.
mhm,
And
mhm.
so, what I've found is that as people do this, they start to have the most incredible experience of life. If we're working on childhood shame about weight, they start to lose weight without doing anything different. If
Right.
we're working on, sexual violence in teenagehood, which then continued into adulthood, they start to really see their intimate partner differently, appreciate their intimate partner, and be able to recover from all of that abuse. And
Mhm.
so, when you decide that you're ready to operate at this highest possible level, at this neuroscientific level that people have gone to such trouble to discover and research, you realize that you can heal from anything much more quickly.
So let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
As you're talking about that, because I'm an NLP master practitioner myself,
I
right? So I'm
love
listening to
NLP.
you.
Yeah,
I love all the brain, the neuro. I just got into it within the last 2 years, and I love it. I just
I
love
love
it.
it too.
Anyway, it's helped me heal from a lot of trauma as well. So let me
Yeah.
ask you this, Adelina. I know that you are, you mentioned the word creating a new memory, right? Creating a
Mhm.
new memory. So do you think it is? Oh, do you think that does the old memory go away? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Does the old memory go away, or are we just developing new experiences around that memory?
So, can I get a little nerdy scientific?
Yeah,
Is that
please.
okay? Okay.
Yeah.
So, I work with fMRIs. It's a functional magnetic resonance. Like you would if you injured your knee, you would go get an MRI, right?
Hmm.
But when we're working with the brain, we love to see the fMRI because we can see the structure of the brain and we can see if there's anything off there. And then I also love working with SPECT scans because SPECT scans can show us how certain areas of the brain light up when we have certain thoughts and certain memories. And so let's go back to that initial example of having a parent who was shaming you about your body as a kid. So, what we've found through SPECT scans over time is if someone is reading you the story of being shamed by your parent, let's say you wrote it down and someone read it out loud to you,
Hmm.
you're hearing that story inside the SPECT scan, you will see certain areas of the brain light up with trauma, right?
Hmm.
You'll see the
Hmm.
limbic brain areas that can show us where the trauma is happening and that it is still in there. What we actually are working to prove right now in my own research is that after you have 2 to 3 transformational healing sessions, those areas don't light up anymore.
Mm.
So it doesn't mean that the memory is gone. It just means that the neuronal pathway that's causing you to feel badly about your body or about yourself is weakening as
Ah,
this new neuronal pathway that causes you to feel good about yourself
got it.
is strengthening. And so
Hmm.
over time,
Hmm.
we don't have enough research about this yet. No one does. But over time, what I hypothesize happens is those old neuronal pathways, as they continue to prune away, they do eventually not affect us anymore. They may
Right.
still
Right.
exist, but we have so
Hmm.
much good overriding the bad
Hmm.
that it
Hmm.
doesn't affect us.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, okay, now I got that. That's good. I was like, "Oh, is she erasing memory? What is she doing here?" Yeah. No, I respect that. I respect that, and I love that because the more I learned about about the brain, the more I'm learning about all of that neural pathways and everything, it's fascinating to
It
me
is.
the power that we have, the absolute power in this
Mhm.
brain that we have that we don't utilize or don't even know is there, right? And our brain is doing nothing but protecting us at all
Yeah,
times.
of
So
course.
that's really phenomenal because that's truly transformation. That's
It
true
is.
transformation because it's coming from the mind. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. So tell me, if like say, somebody's listening to us right now and they're like, wow, okay, I want to know more about what Adalina does. So if somebody, in other words, hears this, wants to work with you, wants to call you, what's the process you put them through? Like what does that all look like?
It's very easy. I don't really do a process because I don't have time. Again, that no patience there.
She's so funny.
If they
I
want me
love
to
it.
call
I
them,
love it.
of course I will call them. We'll have a little chat. But honestly, that doesn't happen too often.
Right.
Um, what people usually do is first they go and suss me out on my podcast. I have a podcast called Cosmic Leadership where I interview beautiful, amazing women like you. And I believe we have an
Thank
episode
you.
coming up. And then after they've kind of listened to my voice and heard some things, maybe they check out my YouTube channel or my social media. And then I have several links, which I'm sure you'll include below, but one of
Yes, I
them is
will.
just a book a session link.
Okay.
You just sign up and book a session, and we go
Okay.
from there. And I offer transformational healing sessions in person and online. I know that I'm booked in person until February. So I'm not sure when this episode comes out, but
Right.
everybody loves to come to Santa Fe, and it's just, it's a wonderful experience. But if
That's
you're willing to
great.
work online, I love working online, and I have those appointments available. So it's pretty easy. You don't need to do anything to
Wow.
prepare. Just come to me and we'll start there.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. All right, because she don't got time, y'all. She don't have time. So
And
she don't
neither
got
do
time. You
they.
better get on this bandwagon. She ain't got time. Um so tell me about okay, Adelina, what do you do? Like what do you do when you're having an obstacle or something just really shitty come your way? Like what is
Yes.
it, how do you manage that for you?
So I still have health issues from that initial experience. They're not
Mhm.
gone. But that is the thing that I struggle with the most. And because of what I've learned about the way the brain and the body are connected,
Mhm.
I start with the brain stuff. So I take a look at what I've been taking in lately. What have I been consuming brain
Mm.
wise? Am I watching a lot of crap on TV? I love a Real Housewives. I won't
Mhm.
lie about it. I think it's just the most fun thing ever. But it can depress you at times.
Yeah.
And so I look at what I'm taking in on TV, what am I taking in on my social media, and I do a
So
full
important.
cleanse of
Yeah.
all of that first. And then I use transformational healing on myself. What am I feeling traumatized about today? Maybe it's something
Mm.
that happened 30 years ago that I didn't remember until I had this dream the other night.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
rewrite it, I use my process, I go within to see if that's truly what it is. I take a look at
Mhm.
what else might be coming up and I
Mhm.
deal with it right away because I think the faster we can deal with things,
Yeah.
especially obstacles or whatever we have coming up, the more quickly we can move on. It's
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
period of time between when the obstacle comes and when you deal with it that is just the most torturous thing ever.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And what I love is when you stated a real fact, dealing with it right away. I think most of us know we should and just are so in our feelings that we don't.
Yeah.
And if we took the few moments that it takes to deal with that, we would save ourselves so much time of aggravation, so
Mhm.
much time of aggravation. So I'm really I'm glad that we had this conversation today because I know this is going to impact a lot of people. And I speak to a lot of like coaches and leaders and consultants and spiritual people and all that kind of stuff, but I love that first I love that you don't have time. You don't have time for the crap. You're just like I love that. It's gonna stick with me. But and I love that that you're like really just gonna deal with the issue. You're not, sugarcoating it, you're not fluffing it
No.
up. It just is
Nope.
what it is. We're gonna deal with this issue. Done. Right?
Yes.
I love
Exactly.
that. I love that. Do you find that people will come back to you later for something else as well and something else because,
Yes.
we don't all have one trauma, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Many of us
Yeah.
have millions. And
Yeah.
the thing I like about this practice is that we start with like what's most important and coming up for you right now.
Mhm.
And as we heal one instance of that, what I've found is that it takes off all of the other instances of that have happened to you. So it's not like EMDR where you have to go through each and every one. You
Right.
basically just do the first one you remember, and then that issue blows you by and you move on to the next. And so I
Mhm.
usually work with people for about 6 months and we go
Mhm.
through the biggest ones. And
That's
then
good.
they go on their merry way and they have a wonderful life. And then
Mhm.
sometimes they come back in 6 months or so and say, you know what, this new thing is coming up for me. And it keeps coming up at work. So I know there must be something deeper. What was my first experience of this? Let's start there and get rid
Yeah.
of that.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that's something I find extremely powerful is when you can find someone that you can trust that'll
Hmm.
help you get through these issues, right? Because, a lot of times, I mean, I'm a coach, but I need a coach in my life. Like
Absolutely. I have a
we have
therapist.
right, right. We have
Yeah.
right, and we have blinders on in some areas in our life, so it's always important. I'm glad
Hmm.
you do. I'm glad you do because I think we all need that, right?
Hmm.
So for all of those of you who are listening, understand that it's always important to have another point of view or another set of eyes that can kind
Yeah.
of help you see something you don't see. I think Adelina could be the person for you. So Adelina, give us all the nitty-gritties, right? Like, where can they, like, contact you, work with you, like, all that great stuff, because I think what you're doing is great work, and I love having people like you on here because it helps my audience see that there's other tools and resources and things that they can, work with. So, give us all that information.
Thank you, Nina.
Of course.
Um, I am on Instagram at Adalina East. The way you spell my name is Adalina. I'm on Facebook at Adalina Healing, and my website is adalinaeast.com.
See? Simple. Oh, easy. She ain't got time. She's not gonna give you a bunch of things. It's just that's how it is. Adelina, you're awesome. Thank you so much for being on Straight Talk. I appreciate you. I really appreciate, what you've built here, your modality and how you're helping people. I think that, if all of us can take some time to help another human on this planet, we will be in a good place. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. I
Thank
do.
you so much, Nina. I appreciate you too.
Thank you for being here, guys. Thank you so much for listening, watching, all that great stuff. You know how it goes. I love having people like Adelina here because I know that you guys are really, really active. You're always like DMing me and emailing me and all that great stuff to tell me how much you love the guest and how much they impacted you. So I know that this episode will impact you as well. Make sure that you contact Adelina because all of us got some issues. Okay. We all got something. All right. So make sure that you contact her so she can help you get through it the way that she knows best, right? It's her modality. She knows what she's doing. She's an expert. Get there and get it done. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Nina Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.